So now we'll talk about some of the built-in attribute directives. Let's go here and we can play with some of them. So some of the built-in ones include, we have like ngClass, which does the exact same thing as the one on Angular 1 did. It conditionally will apply a CSS class based on some condition. We have ngStyle, which again will take an object and apply style to an element. Nothing fancy. There's some other ones that are interesting. Let me see, ngStyle. No, yeah, there's some.
Maybe.
Which one?
This hidden one.
Hidden?
Yeah.
No, well, you can bind to the hidden property.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like that, because that's a property. So probably not. So I guess it's a good segue to go into now talk about the structural directives, which are the more powerful directives, the ones that we use and take advantage of the template syntax. So some of those include, and you've been using one pretty much this whole time, ngFor. So ngFor is a structural directive. It pretty much just uses the template syntax from the shadow DOM, and all it does is just replace that template with an empty script tag. That's all it does. So it actually removes it from the DOM and replaces it with an empty script tag. So what we're going to do is we're going to, actually no, that's going to be an exercise for you guys. So let's just walk through how ngIf works, some of the other ones like ngSwitch and stuff like that, so we can get a handle on it. So for instance, let's change some of the stuff around. Let's go to items, see what's going on in here. So we'll just add another button down here. Let's do that. It's a nice fancy CSS. So on click, we'll just toggle something. We'll say show equals not show. We'll just do that. So now inside of this component,
Probably want to give some text in your button.
yeah, toggle show. Then I'll just put some text down here. So if you notice, most structural directives start with this star. That's actually the shortcut syntax. This asterisk or the star, like we talked about yesterday, is really just a shortcut for the template syntax, which would look like this. Angular actually just converts it to this anyway, so it's really just sugar. It would actually just look like this. That's the equivalent. So that's all this is doing. So you don't have to write it all the time. And only structural directives can do this. So when you see that, you know that it's changing the HTML somewhere, it's changing the content. You could think of it if you ever got deep into Angular 1 directives, it was where you did tricky things in the compile phase on the directive before the link.
Is there still something like priority? So if you had two of those on the H1, you could tell which one was going to happen first?
I don't know how they handle priorities. The story there, I don't think it's well documented yet, but I'm sure they have to have some type of system set up for priorities. How you would handle that, I'm not sure. I'll figure that out for you because that's interesting. All right, so let's check it out. Items, toggle, show. All right, so when I click it, all I'm doing is saying show equals not show. So it's just doing the inverse every single time I click it. So that's ngIf. And if we inspect the DOM, if we look at this, yes?
I was just going to say, I noticed that when you click the button, it's actually firing the click event on the parent div.
It is. So if you want to get around that, then what we would have to do is we would have to make an actual statement here to execute. So let's say toggle, we have to pass in the event. And then down here, toggle, grab the event. Let's continue to do what we were doing before. But then you also want to do event.prevent or stop propagation to stop it from bubbling up. Any questions on ngIf? So very similar to like ngFor, they pretty much work the same way as far as like, you can expect them to, completely change how the DOM templates are going to be rendered. And let's actually, I think it's valuable to like look at the DOM here while this stuff is being toggled to see what's going on. So let's do that. Get over there. So if we look right here, there's this comment here. We have the H1, it's totally in there. And then when we click it, it actually removes it. This is important because in Angular 1, they had ngShow and ngHide. ngHide just hit it with CSS, but the DOM, it was still in the DOM, which people's like, that's performant and stuff. But actually, if it's leaving like all these events and stuff around, it's using up resources that could be used elsewhere for change detection and whatnot. But also on the flip side, if you remove it like ngIf does, then it's really expensive initializing the component. So what they did was when the component, ngIf is smart enough to keep the component state or that element state. So when it comes back, it doesn't have to reinitialize. So it's not that expensive. So it's the best of both worlds. So that's what ngIf does now, whereas it didn't before. So it's pretty cool. Any questions on that? All right. So I do have one more example I can go through to show you, to solidify your understanding of attribute directives. I could totally do that. If you need it, yeah, you need it. Let's do it. What am I saying? Of course. Let's make another one. I actually kind of made one already. Let's just go through it. So I made this spinner one. This directive just spins when you hover over it. So let's just walk through what's happening here. It's very similar to the one we just made. It's a directive, has a selector of spinner. Mouse over, mouse out on the host. Just run the same method. And all that method does is just set the style. Sets a transform with an ease in, and then it just rotates on a increasing degree. That's it. So we'll walk through this and then we'll enhance it, and maybe we'll talk about some more stuff. So let's see what happens, how that stuff works. So I have it here. I'm going to go back to app. I already have it in app. And then I think I already have it here too. Let's see. Yeah. Right. Yep, it's right there. So let's take a look at that. It's this red square right here. So if I hover over this, 10 degrees, out 10 degrees, 10 degrees, 10 degrees, and you can see it'll keep going forever. So as you see, directives are very, very powerful, very, very simple to their component children because they don't have templates, which actually just simplifies it a lot. But again, when you get into like custom structural components or directives, they can get pretty complicated. There's a lot of internal things that you have to use to manipulate the DOM. So any questions on this stuff?
There was one here.
Yes.
One second, let me find it. How can I get a toggle button trigger for a particular element and not for all of the boxes?
How can I get a toggle
Button trigger for a particular element.
for a particular element and not for all the boxes? Let me try to understand. So they only want, I'm guessing what they're asking is, instead of having all of these toggle and sharing the same state, they only want it to show on one?
Or yeah, like maybe just any element.
Oh, okay. Well, it looks like I'm doing this inside of an items list that's repeating over Yeah, so ngFor. So it's going to do it for all of them because it's sharing the same state. Because this show is, this model, this show Boolean is just one. It's not one for every instance. So you would just have to make sure that you're just not sharing the same state like I am. So maybe have that instance be inside the, where is it at?
Item details.
Right. Have it there instead of here. Because it's just sharing the same one. And that's pretty much it. Another way you can do it is you could have it to where you click and it passes in the active item's ID, and only that ID gets to show. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it.